when I was a kid, I had to walk 2 miles to school in 2 feet of snow, and when I was a kid, anyone could afford to go to college. Actually, both those things are true. Unfortunately, the same thing can't be said today, as young people who want a college education today are screwed. You got to have a pile of this stuff in order to go to college. College tuition prices are skyrocketing, making it very hard to go to college, and leaving those who don't have stacks of hundreds lying around to graduate from college tens of thousands of dollars in debt. In fact, outstanding student loan debt hit $1 trillion last year, and now exceeds credit card debt and auto loan debt in America for the first time in world history. And to make matters worse, Congress is about to increase student loan interest rates just so they can pay for our wars in the Middle East and avoid making millionaires and billionaires pay their fair share in taxes. In response to this, college students delivered more than 130,000 petitions to Congress today, asking our elected officials to stop the proposed rate increase. But is that enough? How do mountains of debt affect new graduates? And is the government investing nearly enough in our intellectual infrastructure? Joining me now is Dan Soifer, Vice President of the Lexington Institute, and Molly Katchpole, a recent college graduate stuck with a 6-figure student loan debt. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for joining us. Molly, first of all, tell us what happened on Capitol Hill today and what you students and former students are asking lawmakers to do.
Sure. Well, I work for a nonprofit organization that lobbies on behalf of working Americans and middle-class Americans. And we partnered with a U.S. PIRG, Campus Progress, and the U.S. Student Association to deliver all these petitions. Rebuild the Dream took care of most of the online petitions, and the other groups took care of the on-the-ground work at college campuses. And we were basically telling Congress that that we can't afford for the rate to double. It can't. We just flat out cannot afford it.
Don, the GI Bill was largely responsible for almost tripling the number of college graduates as a percentage of our population in the United States. This was a massive government support program. And from that point until Ronald Reagan became president, college tuition in California was free. In many states, it was really, really cheap. You look at this number, $1 trillion in student loan debt, more than credit card debt. Don't you consider that a crime?
The cost of higher education has skyrocketed to the point that it's long since out of control. And we, from a public policy point of view, need to make sure that we're not doing anything that puts any upward pressure on the price of college, and doing everything we can do from a policy point of view to bring down the cost of college.
Are you suggesting that if we were to do the GI Bill again, because people would have money to spend on college, that the price of college would go up? Is that the little verbal jujitsu that's coming?
Well, if the only thing that you're doing is throwing more tax dollars into the system and nothing else to put transparency on, for instance, higher ed institutions to jack up the tuition, then you could argue in economic terms that you are putting
why not just say
pressure.
that we're not going to give any more federal aid to for-profit colleges?
Well, for-profit colleges have been singled out, sure.
They have the highest failure rate. They have the highest indebtedness.
Well, more recently, though, the greater increases in tuition are happening at four-year public institutions. The problem's all over, and there's not one solution that's going to fix it. We need to look at the situation overall.
Well, we used to subsidize colleges massively. I mean, Molly, how does student loan debt affecting you?
I mean, I'm paying about $650 a month in loans. I'm one of the first people in my family to go to college, and it was really important for my family that I went. And I can barely afford that. I mean, I'm on a 10-year plan, and I'm trying to pay more to get my principal loan down, but it's really, really difficult. I'm lucky I have a job.
Yeah.
Really lucky.
I didn't graduate from college, but when I did go to college, I was able to do that. I was able to put myself through school to the extent that I did by picking apples in the summer, by being a DJ part-time for $3.25 an hour and working in a gas station. My wife worked as a waitress in a Howard Johnson's and put herself through school. I mean, you could do that back in the 60s and the early 70s, and then Reagan came along and all this stuff blew up. I mean, you had Bill Bennett, Secretary of Education, who wanted to end the Department of Education. This was, I'm assuming that you know people from the next generation up who went through that. I mean, and what's happening to kids to young people your age? You're not a kid.
I mean, so just the fact that people still think that you can put yourself entirely through college by working the whole time is just like, it's crazy, and it just shows how out of touch people are. I think I know very, very few people who could do that, and it's just, I mean, it's also just crazy to me that we have to do that to begin with. Yeah. You know, that's the belief, that you should just work to put yourself through school.
Don, of the 34 OECD nations, the Organization of Economic, the 34 richest nations in the world, We are the only one that does this to our students. In fact, most of those nations give students free college. In Denmark, they pay you a $200 a month stipend to go to college, all the way up to PhD. Same in, I believe it's the same in Finland, Norway, Sweden. In Germany, you can get free college after you do a year of public service. I mean, what's wrong with America? Why, and why do conservatives like you want to hang on to this broken, dysfunctional system that dumps people like Molly basically out on the street with $100,000 in debt when she should be walking out with a degree in her hand and looking for a job?
The higher ed system, at almost 4% of GDP, is a drain on the rest of the economy. One of the major problems...
How is that possible?
Well, I think there's a lot of reasons.
If it's 4% of GDP, it's a business. But if it's my head is exploding. I mean, every other country in the world, every other developed country in the world says, we're going to invest in our intellectual infrastructure. What's wrong with doing that?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think one problem is that when you have high school graduates who lack the basic skills to succeed in college, you're basically passing an unfunded mandate to the higher ed system.
That's not what we're talking about. That's the result of 30 years of attacking our public school system. What I'm talking about is the attack on our college system. Mm-hmm. I mean, why not go back to the University of California the way it was before Reagan took a meat axe to it?
But
you can go to college for free.
Where's the transparency and the accountability for
that made a fortune for the state of California. You know, the whole Silicon Valley thing happened because California had free college. It drew the best and the brightest. Mm-hmm. Don't we want to be a nation of the best and the brightest?
Where is the accountability for the officials who jack up the price of tuition as their first recourse rather than have some transparency on where that money's going?
Molly, do you think that this bubble is about to burst, the student debt bubble? Are you seeing people who are just about to walk away from or freak out or bankruptcy?
Yeah, I mean, the last couple of months of school, I started freaking out about it. I mean, like, I had to find a job. I had to find a good-paying job. We can't put them off any further. Or else you get a forbearance fee. I mean, like, it's just crazy. And we tell students starting at age 10 that they have to go to college. Yeah. And then we stop public education at 12th grade.
Right. Yeah. Don, Molly, thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.